The phrase, "separate the art from the artist," could be said about a lot of artists these days. And one of those artists is Johnny Depp, who has an impeccable acting range. So let's separate the art from the artist by listing down Depp's top 10 iconic characters. Starting off with J.M. Barrie in Finding Neverland. Depp's portrayal of playwright J.M. Barrie is probably underrated. The way he shows the character's relationship with a family that will later inspire him to write Peter Pan is so honest that it's a welcome change from his usual roles. He was nominated for an Academy Award for this role, deserved. Finding Neverland is one of the few times Depp played a real person, so it gives his fans a chance to see him in a more heartfelt and real role. According to various sources, he wanted to play the part because he could relate to Barrie's desire to keep in touch with his childlike imagination. Depp also went deep into a unique and interesting angle for the character, which was definitely different from many of his other characters. Now, speaking of his other characters, I think this list wouldn't be complete without Captain Jack Sparrow. Even though he was a big name for people who liked offbeat stories since the 1980s, Pirates of the Caribbean, a hugely successful adventure movie based on a Disney ride, made him an even bigger star.
Everyone stay calm, we're taking over the ship. Aye, of us!
Jack Sparrow is a strange, drunk liar who could be the great hero he says he is, but only if he would just clean up his act. I think the role has given Depp a chance to make his own weird characters popular by letting him play a real-life cartoon character with almost no redeeming qualities. It would be easy to dismiss this performance as over-the-top, but let's be fair, Jack Sparrow wouldn't be the movie icon he is today if he hadn't found subtle ways to ground him. He surely walks a fine line when he plays Jack Sparrow. Interestingly, this wasn't the only time Johnny acted like he was on psychedelics. Remember when he played Raoul Duke in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? Based on the book by Hunter S. Thompson, this Terry Gilliam film was the first time we saw Depp play a man who was always drunk and high, and who we weren't sure we could trust. Duke is a living drug trip as he moves around the world in an exaggerated way, reacts to things that aren't there, and is trapped in the sensory overload that is Las Vegas. This is also one of those roles that Depp disappears into. We know at the beginning of the movie that this is Johnny Depp, but somewhere along the way we lose track of reality, while he just becomes the unreliable narrator of this acid trip of a movie. Speaking of an acid trip of a movie, let's not forget when he played Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I shake you warmly by the hand. My name is Willy Wonka.
In the 2005 movie, Depp plays a crazy chocolatier, and his voice and mannerisms make it impossible to tell who he is. And as Depp shows the kids around his magical factory, he changes into a whole new person in the movie. But what makes his character weirdly fascinating is his childlike traits, which I'm pretty sure stem from his unresolved daddy issues. Charlie in the Chocolate Factory is often praised for showing the darker sides of the character, and many fans think it's due to Depp's great performance. While we're on the foot of listing down his great performances, it wouldn't be fair not to mention Depp as Sweeney Todd. As I've mentioned more than once in this video, Johnny Depp has a strange personality, like a rock star, which makes him a good fit for roles like Sweeney Todd. And it's almost like the story of a heartbroken barber in Victorian-era London who wants to get even was written for Johnny Depp. Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, stars Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, who's also known for her captivating performances. And together, the pair gave audiences a memorable experience. But since the movie was based on a Broadway musical, Depp had big shoes to fill. And even though he isn't really known for his singing, he was able to hold his own in a talented cast. The film keeps the audience on edge the whole time, mainly because of how subtly Depp shows the character's sadness and anger. Speaking of his portrayals of sad and angry characters, we next have Depp as Donnie Brasco. This is by far my favorite Johnny Depp movie, and I think this is his second best performance to date. and it's mainly because he's so good at playing both sides of Brasco. The responsible undercover cop who puts his family at risk, and the emerging wise guy who needs to make connections with a criminal group if he wants to succeed. But then again, every time Depp tries his hand at a genre that could be boring, he gives it just enough of a twist to make it stand out. Of course, if you want more proof of that, you can simply consider this next one. His iconic role in Alice in Wonderland as the Hatter.
Have you any idea why a raven is like a writing desk?
Depp brings his own style and wit to the classic fairy tale and gives the well-known and loved character a new look. The Mad Hatter is a more active character than in some of his other roles, which shows how versatile of an actor he is. Surely, Depp's charisma and charm have won over many fans, and some of them still dress up as Depp's Mad Hatter years after the movie came out. And I think all fans agree that this has become one of his most important and memorable roles in a short amount of time. Speaking of his memorable roles, let's talk about Depp as Edward Scissorhands. Edward lives alone in a Gothic mansion on a hill overlooking a small suburb, which was made by an inventor who died before the finishing touches could be added. He clearly hasn't had any contact with the outside world, so when he's allowed to live with a normal family, he's the perfect example of a fish out of water. Almost everything is new to him. And since Edward hardly ever speaks, he shows us this through his facial expressions. This is a great example of how Depp disappears into a role. But Depp isn't always the crazy unconventional character on screen. He's a romantic at times as well. Remember his role as Gilbert Grape? In this story about coming of age, a young Johnny Depp plays Gilbert, who along with Leonardo DiCaprio's character Arnie has to take care of their mother. And just like his other roles, both critics and fans loved Depp's performance as Gilbert. He worked well with young Leonardo on screen, and his co-star got a lot of attention for the movie, which shot him up to success. On top of that, the movie was a turning point for Johnny Depp, establishing him as a serious, romantic leading man, and of course, a dramatic actor. One of his most mature roles to date is Gilbert, a family-oriented young man who was trying to find a balance between his duty to his family and his desire to do more. Now, Depp did shine here, but none of it compares to his next role, the one that started it all for him, his role as Tom Hansen. Depp's role on the weekly TV show 21 Jump Street made him a household name, a heartthrob, which he hated being called, and a reliable actor who could take on movie roles in the future. On top of that, this is the role that potentially started his acting career. He famously played the part again in the recent reboot of 21 Jump Street, which shows that even Depp knows how important the franchise was to his career. And on that note, who's your favorite character played by Johnny Depp? Thanks for watching. See you next time.